Welcome, everyone. I'm a little reserved because my house is a recording studio tonight. Multiple people are going to be recording tonight. My girlfriend's recording for her school, her presentation. I'm recording, of course, Stone Soup tonight, and my girlfriend's daughter, when she comes in, has probably got cut a video with all her friends she hasn't seen for a while. So we will proceed accordingly. You all can hear me. Thank you guys for everyone who has said they're not going to read or are going to read. I'm assuming you're reading unless you put something into the chat. And of course, I know Nancy's going to read, and I know our other phone participants are the features tonight. So we'll get on that very shortly. This is Stone Soup Poetry. We've been around for 52 years. I've been alive for a good two May of those years, though I was only involved in Stone Soup in 2005. We're celebrating the 52nd for one more chance, for the chance that we got. And we are very pleased to have the very first person who I had featured during an anniversary month. I actually hosted her feature reading all the way back in May of 2006. She was the 35th feature alongside Nancy Dawson, who's also here, and one other person who I can't remember. I'm sure Carol will be chomping at the bit to tell me later. But Carol Weston is the feature tonight, but along with Margaret Wesel, who some of you may have met at the time as Margaret Nairn. Margaret Wesel is still in the Boston area, still in the Massachusetts area, New England area, I should say, still in parts unknown. She is still a friend of Stone Soup and a keeper of many things of Jack Powers, which we'll get to, or she'll get to at another time later today. So we're gonna get to the open mic right now, and it's very weird. I should be able to say all the same things I usually say when I'm very loud, but I'm being very soft, so I'm watching myself. But let's go to the Ramdonator 5000 and see who our first pick is. Our first pick was also with us back during the years of at the Stone Soup, playing every Monday night in Central Square on Prospect Street. And now he actually has a book coming out. Let's welcome up Mr. Randall, or AKA Randy Barish.
That's right. Yeah, I've got my first book, first of two books coming out. Yeah, I'll be on my website and I'll put it on Facebook. Okay, I just want to say that I was a regular at Stone Soup back then, and I'm going to read a poem that you made a video of many years ago. I'm going to read that. And can you all hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and this is something I actually read at your thing. It's called okay, let me just, sorry about that. I have it on the PDF file here from the book. Just give me a second here. I'm sorry. You know, you just touch it and just my apologies to the page. So Seasons of the Night. This is so embarrassing. Oh, here we go. The Seasons of the Night. The misty. Okay, hold on. I got a little pop-up here. Okay, beautiful. The misty firmament above, in the hours before the rising sun, swirls patterns deeply etched into the gray sky. Windy realm of night with its soaring echoes, a play of wind, clouds, and dancing moonlight. The spirits of the ages play, spread across the invincible night. They play unseen, yet fill the Arcadian meadows with their presence. To the wind they vow a burning promise, to the night their unquenchable energies. In the windy sea sky adrift with misty cloud schooners, the season of the solstice sweeps her glowing gown, drawn by oceanic breezes. Her midnight tempest spawns vaporous clouds across the gloomy moors, her druid song haunting the moonlit fields. This swirling mirth of darkness strips the tired senses spellbound in these seasons of the night. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Randy. What do we have next? We're gonna go to someone also out of state. Let's go to Jackie Chow.
Okay, so we're supposed to read one poem, right?
Yeah, one medium to longish poem or two small poems. You know, you can mix it up if you want. We're not too picky.
Okay, so I'm gonna read two small poems, smallish poems that are new. The first one is called The Quiet Ones. He can sit for hours, not saying a word. He's mute, like those voodoo dolls with stitched lips, or the four blank walls, and just as ominous. As for me, I spew out fountains of graffiti. He won't make space for them in his cluttered heart. My voice is no harp to his ears, but a loud timpani drumming in his head while he searches for a moment of peace. Yeah, I'm reading new poems. And the next one is called The Photographer. He's in love with my face and my body, capturing my bare skin and the contours of my curves. He tunes out my words because if he listens to them, he might detect sounds that suggest nerd, brainiac, something other than sexy. So he pretends to hear the huskiness in my voice, beckoning him to proceed to something more real than my cardboard smile. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. I think we're gonna go now to Jan Rowe. She and James have been busy the last couple of days as she recapped before we went online and started recording. Maybe she wants no comment, but hopefully she'll do a poem.
This is something from 50 years ago. I was introduced to William Wordsworth at California, Little California State College. One of his sonnets from 1806 or 7. The world is too much with us, late and soon, getting and spending. We lay waste our power. Little we see in nature that is ours. We have given our hearts away, a sordid boon. The sea that bears her bosom in the winds that will be howling at all hours and are now upgathered like sleeping flowers. For this, for everything, we are out of tune. It moves us not. Great God, I'd rather be a pagan suckled in a creed. So might I, standing on this pleasant lea, have glimpses that would make me less forlorn. Have sight of Proteus rising from the sea, or hear old Triton blow his wreathed horn. Thank you, William Wordsworth. Oh, one more thing. It was a good English department 50 years ago, but when we went back a couple years ago, it was all gone, right? It was somewhat disturbing.
Thank you, Jan. I think we're gonna go next to our New York base. Let's go to Patricia Kerrigan. We haven't seen for a while, but has been busy as hell.
And sick as hell too. Okay. This is going to be published in the upcoming Witchery by Lenny Della Rocca. He runs that Witchery, that new online zine. All the way inspired by, it's one of those e-poems. All the way inspired by Billie Holiday. Stiffened smiles lived inside Kodak archives. Commands of cheese documented, hidden for potholes. His mom's parents took turns at the wheel. Some pages had bent edges, Others retired from plastic spirals. Some photo corners MIA, others on their last grip. He touched a photo of his mom, innocence at the age of 2. She grew up to be an outsider, a woman taught to think inside perimeters. She tried to be his redwood. Sawed off branches couldn't protect her seedling from trauma. Last week, he buried his tallest tree, sang a Lady Day tune near an audience of maples and oaks, and a crow that left a coin by his feet. Thank you.
Thanks, Patricia. And that's that you say is from is going to be in the you called the online zine. It's going to appear in the Witchery.
Yeah, Witchery. Lenny, he runs the South Florida Journal. He started his online journal called Witchery. It's for e-poems that look like this, in the shape of an E.
Interesting.
And it was accepted. And I think there's going to be a Zoom reading coming up in June 29th, I believe.
Very cool.
Thank you.
All right. So bringing up someone I don't think I've seen him here before, but I am so glad he is here. Let's welcome up Nemo Sun.
Thank you. Yeah, this is my
Woo!
first.
Let's go, Nemo! I just got to give
Thank
him
you,
a shout
Marissa.
out.
All right. I have 2 micropoems that I'd like to share. The phoenix refuses to rise. So we lay in the ashes, despair and I, staring at the ceiling, not talking. Still, because moving only makes her hold on tighter. I can feel my heartbeat slowing. Anger left hours ago. He didn't turn to look, just slammed the door, and I heard the car peeling out into the night. I don't know if he'll come back this time. I wish his absence felt peaceful. Everyone here is broken because everyone here lost the fight. The fire's gone out. The air smells like loss, and I'm waiting for someone who isn't coming. He has so much potential, they said. If only he would apply himself, but I didn't. Books stayed closed, and I played imaginary games in imagined places with imaginary people who seemed whole because their mothers and fathers loved them. I wish I could say that I defied my parents all along, but there was so much shame, so much doubt, so many times my face burned at their disappointment. Oh, the power of disappointment, of guilt. I learned to fight myself, learned to hate the dreamer who looked out the window instead of working, foreshadowing the day I would stare into the distance, an unmarked test in front of me, pen down, heartbroken, the day after my father left for good. My anonymity became my refuge. Odysseus said it to save his life. When he got home, he killed everyone. I say it to save my dignity. There is no one who calls me son. Someday, somebody, maybe. For now, I am no one. Thank you.
Thank you so much for gracing our open mic, sir. That was great. Very enjoyable.
Thank you.
I'm going to give it now to one of our phone contributors. I'm going to ask her to unmute by pressing *6. She's been with us almost as long as the series has been online. Let's welcome up Nancy Dodson.
Dog versus cat. The dogs make pitter patter on the stone. The rushing dog begins to bark. Every time I hear a bark, I'm fearful. Will I wake someone up during the day, during the night? Will the dog chase a cat up the tree? Will the dog chase a cat to the top of the fence? The barks are an interruption as the night wears on. Cats should fear the dog that never had his nose scratched by cat. To scratch a nose is to fear the cat forevermore. Perhaps it is the best way not to hear a bark. Fear is the teacher of the jungle law, and perhaps the wisest law of all. It's instinct.
Thank you very much, Nancy. Bravo. Excellent. And continuing down the open mic list, the Ramdonator has selected next. Someone we haven't seen for a while, but she has been very busy herself running her own reading series and doing her own publishing house. I'm sure she'll have a chance to hype that up now before she reads. Let's welcome up Marissa Prada.
Oh my gosh, Chad, thank you so much. It's good to see you and everyone. Patricia, thank you for doing this. Rarely am I able to get here on a Wednesday night, but just happens I free tonight. So I sent my team the link at Word is Right. I was like, let's go to Stone Soup, because they're just so wonderful. American Graveyard Calls to End Gun Violence did drop this spring. So this is our 200-page literary anthology. All calls to end gun violence. There are 67 contributors in here. We also have a full color art book that is 50 pages. Between these two anthologies, we're covering 26 states and 8 countries. So it is a huge undertaking. We have a sponsor a senator program. So for almost half the cost of the book, you can sponsor a U.S. state senator. We'll send it anonymously to anyone that you want, any of your choice. So redorgreenbooks.com, red, READ is the website. You can check out the book, read the reviews, and see who all's in this. It's an incredible book. It's only the first volume. There will be others. I seriously thought about doing my piece from here today, but as we're reading and I'm listening to everyone, I'm going to read this new piece for you. I'm a publisher and a poet from Albuquerque, New Mexico, and recently Title 42 expired, and so this is my poem that I wrote for that, just titled Title 42 Expires. I think about the broken levees during Katrina, how the flood of failure and death came for Louisiana. Whenever the news chooses to give a 10-second spot during not so prime time to the massive drowning of desperate human necessity at the southern border. Desperate human necessity at the southern border. Sorry, Bill, you're unmuted, so now I'm in surround sound. Okay. Tomorrow, 11:59 p.m. I suppose Eastern time, even though no one here is on their time. COVID restrictions will be lifted for migrants, and they are cresting the finite line between two countries that used to be one, used to belong to a people actually born to this land. Torn apart by the greed of man's hand, driven by a God that anoints their power and avarice need to conquer, to self-proclaim being king, being rightful owner, be able to say who belongs and who does not. So many are flocking for survival over continents when most Americans can't even walk to the corner store. The masses arrive since corruption and murder has driven them north to the border like cattle. The wharf to the ship of dreams equals tragedy around here. So many have died. Too many have died. Mothers hand off their babies to strangers, to be raped, to be trafficked, to be slaughtered, all in the name of a better life because they have no clear way to sanctuary. Kept in cages, segregated for the sake of not being deemed legal. 251,487 reported border crossings in just December 2022. Over 12,000 were unaccompanied children. Our levees are about to break in less than 30 hours, and still bodies are burning in trailers, in car accidents, in tents on the side of a river that holds the ghosts of hope. Those who tried to cross before, who died cold and wet and alone and scared, who sacrificed because there is no other choice for so many who wait for this place still. and their families will never know. They will never see their corpses or be called to join them in said promised land. This is not the American dream. This is not America I am proud of. This is not a place that saves the many, but a few. We allow poor communities of color to die slowly, one at a time. Glacial genocide. While the government decides how much it will cost and points a heavy finger to the other guy. Mothers would never let this happen. Mothers would never let children die. No one came. No one came for weeks after Katrina. No one has ever come here. Except now, 1,500 extra troops to this place. Send lawyers, send doctors, send actual help. Or send more coroners, more casket makers, send more priests and poets to write the true history. Thank you. Thank you all so much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marissa. That was amazing. And please post a link to get the anthology. I was going to get one earlier, but wasn't able to, and hopefully I'll be able to this week or the next. I'm going to give it over to John Wesek right now, sir. Poet,
Hello,
author. There we go.
Chad. Well, here is a story that just appeared on a website called Suddenly and Without Warning. Saw some geese jaywalking. They didn't wait for the crossing light or show the donuts any consideration at all. It's always like that with waterfall, walking along the sidewalk with their faces buried in reel-to-reel tapes. When I was a kid, we didn't have reel-to-reel tapes. A June cleaver with a rotary dial was good enough for us. I never understood why someone would want a June cleaver in their pocket. Hell, I want to get away from June cleaver. It's not like a spandex is going to call. Most of the time, it's only a slide rule or a Bernie Madoff calling anyway. All my paying back Jason Conrad for my split lip teachers tell me that awareness is necessary to avoid Jason Conrad. Not only that, but the stick of pine incense says that awareness is also the key to flowers, saffron robes, and dots on the forehead. How can you avoid Jason Conrad with your face buried in a reel-to-reel tape? Maybe burying your face in a reel-to-reel tape is better than the reality waterfall face these days. What's so great about living in your mom's sump pump while being horse tranquilized with a lifetime of John Belushi debt? They don't have the kind of steam locomotives we had in my day. What a Bernie Madoff. They had to John Belushi to get a steam locomotive and need a steam locomotive to pay for the John Belushi, but no steam locomotives are there. To make matters worse, some members of Citizens United say we should Vietnam our waterfall to teach them crossing guards and hall monitors, as if being stuck with John Belushi and no steam locomotive wasn't bad enough. No wonder waterfall retreat into reel-to-reel tapes.
Let's go, John.
Thank you so much, John. Much appreciated. Who do we have next? We have such a good talent pool tonight. I'm very excited about all of this. Let's go with someone who's one of the first ones here. Let's go to Shocky G.
Yay!
Oh my God, it's Shocky G. Yes. Shocky is one of the 2023 debut poets this year, y'all. She's amazing. If you don't know who she is, I just had to give you some roses there. I got you.
I'm gonna do my piece, Treehouse of Horror. When I was a kid, my stepfather swore he would build me a treehouse. He wasn't really my stepfather, just a man my mother loved, but the way he broke a promise felt like chopping wood, so I believed him. You see, first, he said there wasn't enough wood, so I dragged home branches and pallets until the truth splintered my fingers. Second, he said he would teach me to do it myself. Handed me a coping saw, but not a coping skill, so I learned how to cut myself before I learned what to do with the pain. But I kept building, chanting, I am the architect of my own dreams. And when I stepped onto the makings of a floor, I learned what it meant to fall. Growing up, I never had a treehouse in my backyard, just plywood reminders of how fragile dreams and promises can be. It's funny, Jesus' stepfather made him a carpenter, and I wonder if he ever had a treehouse in his backyard, or if he learned how it felt to nail his hand to wood long before he was supposed to. The men our mothers loved, leaving lessons in their sawdust smiles. And maybe we were the tattered tree houses they built, just broken homes and weak foundation, reminders of how fragile dreams and promises can be. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shockey. Pleasure to have you with us. Pleasure to have all the Red Green Marissa Prada crew with us tonight. I've been back and forth because I've been dealing with an order and helping other things, but I do want to mention that there's going to be some calls for submissions going out. There's a new zine that I'm basically partnering up with this student artist. And I'm gonna be trying to invite, I'm gonna do a very small call for submissions for that. And also we have the Stone's Throw issue, Aim for the Thoughts and Prayers. You can guess what the theme is for that. It is our own answer to gun violence. The thing is, I came up with it 2017, and look, the idea is still new and fresh today. But if anyone's interested in submitting, contact me on Facebook. I know a couple of people have inquired. I'd love to get this out by early mid-June. Unfortunately, because I was sick, I ended up not being able to get a lot done. So there's gonna be a lot of new Stone Soup stuff coming out in June and July. So looking forward to that. Up next, Eric Nelson. This is a name I have not heard in a while. See, a face I have not seen in a while. It'd be great to hear a poem from him for the first time in ages.
Okay.
Welcome, Eric.
Hello again. This is like, the thing I have is like something like 4 typewritten pages in length. Is that okay? Size-wise?
We haven't seen you for a while, so what the hell?
Okay. So this is inspired by an internet phenomenon that has been going around called the back rooms, which I find strangely evocative. Somebody posted a picture of an ugly, empty interior, and then people started imagining it was haunted, and then making up video games about it where creatures were chasing you in it and stuff. And I found that strangely evocative, like the idea that an empty space is not neutral, but haunted just because it's empty. And so this is something that was inspired by that. Another day at the office. We were making another presentation to show to a client. Mr. Lightfoot, our boss, is addressing Ben and me on video as we sit in the huddle room with our laptops on Microsoft Teams. He says, now I was just in a discussion with our sales specialists, and what they want is concept. Make it look modern, not like yesterday's future, like tomorrow's future. It's another retail space, but don't make it look like just another retail space. Now go out there and to your design stations and do something creative. So Ben and I go back to our cubicles, turn off on our software packages and start concepting. I'm trying to use the new renderer to make an animated image of a proposed retail space they were designing for a developer. Mr. Lightfoot is looking over my shoulder as I sit in my cubicle trying to focus on my computer screen. Don't fall asleep on me, he barks at me. Fair enough, I was spacing out a little. But somehow when he yells at me, I'm startled into a strange state, like pulling a muscle in my brain. I can't sleep, but I can't wake up either. I'm turning unresponsive and zombified and invisible. I am having an out-of-body experience, looking down on me slumped over the chair and everyone else in the office looking small from a height. I start sleepwalking. Am I sleepwalking through the real world or through somebody's imaginary space inside my computer? I'm not sure. I cannot breathe. I cannot taste anything or smell anything. I just steer through hallways. I am in a mall where there's no natural lighting in the halls, only fluorescent and neon. In the mall, there are no people. Robots are shopping, or maybe they're zombies. They look exactly like the mannequins in the stores where they're trying clothes on, except for maybe a little more human-like with a flexible skin. They have no mouths. They line up in the food court. Even though they are not able to eat because they have no mouths, they seem to be treating the act of buying food as for something sacred, a fetish maybe. Perhaps they are compelled to buy drinks because they desire them. They are thirsty, but they cannot drink. So they get an illusion of satisfaction by buying. A blue light flashes and an electronic ringtone sounds. In perfect lockstep, they all walk back into a storage room, pack themselves like sardines, and turn themselves off. A robot with a vacuum cleaner starts vacuuming. I run as the vacuum cleaner is pushed against my ankles. As I open the exit door, a flock of seagulls flies in and starts eating the food the zombies left behind at the tables. I walk further. I walk past an abandoned warehouse. Lights get turned off as I walk by, or perhaps by squatters who don't want to be seen. There's a school being demolished, lockers dangling on a wall several stories up, with occasional mittens that have typed announcements pinned to the walls. I see a person on the sidewalk. I want to ask where I am, what time it is, ask where I can get a drink. I walk up to her and all that comes out of my mouth is a vague whispering sound and she runs. I see I have no shadow. I see my hands look like wisps of dust bunny. I see my reflection and I seem to have no mouth. And even though I have no mouth, I am very thirsty. I am lying on the floor next to my cubicle and Ben passed me on the back. You seem to have fainted, he said. Let me get you a drink. I'll be right back. I sit in my swivel chair while the room spins around me, and he comes back with a Gatorade and an energy bar. You have to be careful with the renderer, he says. If it strobes at the wrong rate, it synchronizes with your brainwaves. Why don't they ban it? I asked. They're looking for a way to use it in advertising, he replies. They haven't worked out all the parameters. For a while, I cannot look at things. The color swatches and samples in the space planning department uses starts to swirl, and if I look too deep, I will see things in them like tunnels in the printed pattern and get drawn in, never to be able to get out. But if I don't look at anything, the same images form in the darkness behind my eyelids. So I have to look at something and nothing at the same time. I reboot. I log in. I read my email and check my messages on Microsoft Teams. I take another sip of Gatorade. I can taste it and it is wet, so I can tell I am not one of those robots at the mall that cannot taste food. Yet. At quitting time, I remember there are a few things I need to buy at the mall. But I decide I would rather go straight home. Thank you very much.
Good to have you back, sir. Eric Nielsen actually has a poem slated for being in the anthology for the Stone's Throw, Aim for the Thoughts and Prayers. That's how long we've had this idea going, and it's just been, unfortunately, it's been canceled due to a number of reasons, pandemic being a big one. Pandemic and political upheaval and the collapse of society being, I think that's it, but honestly, I think that's enough. So thanks for your contribution, Eric. And if anyone wants to contribute, just email me directly. or if we're connected on Facebook, you can send it to me via Facebook Messenger. Excuse me, I'm getting to the point where I'm saying more than 100 words. I'm going to start coughing uncontrollably. Let's go to the person who I thought was not going to be here tonight, but here he is from parts unknown. It is Bill Lewis.
Parson Doan indeed. Oh. Yes, I have taken my trip to the west of Massachusetts that I may make the pilgrimage and place my troth upon the rock where she stood. Yes, indeed, it was my opportunity. And well, is it here? I was walking on the lawn when I saw this. The butterfly upon the sky that doesn't know its name and hasn't any tax to pay and hasn't any home. It's just as high as you and I, and higher, I believe. So soar away and never sigh, and that's the way to grieve. And this was one of her numerous thousands and thousands of unpublished poems. So yes, I visited her and saw the great things. Woohoo! Beautiful house when you are that, when your father is that wealthy. Yeah, life is a lot more fun when you're that much wealthier than we are. You can write thousands and thousands of poems. But I have one too. I was reading Karen's book, and I was simply at some point I just was that I'm just going to write my own versions of her poems. I mean, not her poems, but take inspiration, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. And so for her poems, I just write my own version there on the bottom. Not version, just my inspiration from reading hers. I don't even know if that means anything, but there it is, and you're stuck with it because it's my turn to read. She calls her poem Winter Light. Her poem is scaling back under cover, waiting for the spring to arrive. These dogs laying abed in the raw sun, those bare trees shaking outside the window this chill day. My interpretation, winter light. Colorless, invisible, yet somehow still there. You can tell, trudging through the snow, that something is different. It isn't light, it just isn't dark. There's that extreme moment of blackness just before the dawn, and it's over before you can find it. Shotzi, my dog by my side, she knows. Newspaper by newspaper, the dawn sneaks in, a ray appears, your bag of newspapers is empty, and sixth grade awaits.
Thank you, Bill. I guess you made it safe. This is great. I mean, are you actually at your final destination? Or are you in a transitionary spot?
So right now I'm in Pittsfield.
Cool.
My friend from Occupy Boston, Sage, has finally built a house. I helped him with some of the financing and everything and helped him get it going. So he has built a house. This man was, I knew him homeless, and now he is a homeowner and builder. It is possible. And so I was out here to visit him and see part of the state. So yes, Pittsfield it's lovely.
Very awesome. Good luck with the rest of your journey. We're gonna go to Christian. Let's see. Christiana. Christiana, if you have a quip or a line that you'd like to share.
Sorry, I had to unmute myself. If you want to love me, Joe, lay where the flowers grow.
And there you have it. Getting closer to our end bosses before we get to the final boss. We're gonna go to Mr. Jeff Taylor if he's got time. Poet, publisher himself, performer. Jeff Taylor. Oops, he might be just listening. Okay, let's who do we go to next? Let's go now with a musical interlude with Mr. Ethan Mackler.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Yes? All right.
And now let's bring it to, very nice. Let's see if, is Jeff Taylor available? Paging Jeff Taylor.
Hey, I'm here,
Hey.
but I am. Can you do somebody else right now?
Yeah.
'Cause I'm just kind of moving my position. I'm just changing locations.
That's you in the spotlight, moving your position. Got it. Okay. Let's
Thank you.
no problem. Okay. All right. The more I tell these kind of jokes, the more I realize that fewer and fewer people are going to get them. Old. Anyway, let's welcome up next Mr. Ed Galt, Ed Magister Galt.
Thank you. I have one here called Making the Rounds, which I want you to keep in mind was written in 2009, which a year in which we were all a little earlier in our internet addiction. Anyway, I wrote this in 2009 called Making the Rounds. I returned to the computer again and again, checking my email, going to my blog to see if anyone had left a comment, then to Facebook to see if anybody wanted to chat or simply left a message. Nobody. Back to email, new spam, back to my blog, zip, I log off, go brew some coffee, then I return to the computer once again. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Magister. I assume Jeff is still changing his position. So we're going to go to Mr. James Van Looy. Check out his column tomorrow in Oddball Magazine. It's all one thing. And take it away, Mr. Van Looy.
Thanks, Chad. So I have this poem here for Hokusai, the Japanese artist that's at the MFA exhibition that they're having right now, who's famous for his 39 views of Mount Fuji. And one of the most famous one is called The Wave. The Wave. So this is called The Wave. The wave, building up the incline, has broken, and white water cresting rushes out onto the once distant shore. The ocean pot boils over, spills, overflows land. All that was firm is swept away. Wealth, once so absolute, is ephemeral as the night, and day is never so long as all we've known. A dim light in oncoming darkness flickers this creature we've been searching for now for so long, come back to repeat its poor self, hoping to block out the burning ultraviolet light with chemtrails that only a faint mist of condensed water, guarded by absolute right to guns. When, as any rational actor so knows, your right to shoot up the night ends there at our bodies, torn limbs, decapitated heads, and headless, heedless, nation state fundamentals, Christianist, Jewishist, Islamist, Buddhist, Hinduist, world religions of cult of redemptive violence are sitting there waiting to pull us all under. Or is it push us all in? All one thing. And here's the song that goes with it. Brady is further than oid, so dig by house, roasting the weapons night, but have the angst, met hands get on, let all is but Adam in Brady bestaan. All is but Adam in Brady bestaan. Mark speelt mit Mark and total the spell. Bang for a car, dragons he met the hell. Lear knew of night, summon to come. Let all as but Adem in frede bestaan. Alles but Adem in frede bestaan. So there's a Dutch song for you. Thank you. And I just would say that Hokusai did that beautiful print of that's so famous of these boats caught in these incredible waves, one of which is literally like it's breaking over Mount Fuji itself, was actually done just before, of course, the US came in and forced its way into Japan, Admiral Perry, of course. And so this was actually a development of independent art in that country that had been developing in a cut-off Japan for about a century and a half at least, that resulted in this incredible flowering of popular art in that country. But he actually seemed to sense that something big was about to crash down upon his country. Thank you.
Excuse me. Thank you, James. And now, last call for Jeff Taylor.
Hey, Chad. Yeah, thanks for hanging in there with me as I was moving myself around. I'm out in the garage of Garage Poets open mic infamy. Here's so I'm going to read to you today a poem called American Brick Struggling with Zeno's Paradox. And that poem will be published by Unlikely Stories on unlikelystories.org, upcoming in June. The beginning of June, you can check that out. So here's the poem. The first brick refuses to buy a microwave. He says because of the radiation, but I know his family owns a toaster oven factory. The second brick became internet famous for getting smashed over the head with a vanilla milkshake. He tried to sell me a bottle of ivermectin autographed by Joe Rogan. The fourth brick has a family history of being the fourth brick. Her grandfather was originally intended for the Berlin Wall, but was redirected to a blood bank in Detroit. She refuses to see the angle of her view has shifted, even though she's pivoting from the same place. Brick 8 sits on the toilet retweeting Elon Musk. He claims to be advocating for free speech and decentralized banking, but I think he just likes smelling his own shit. The 16th brick got on a bus chartered to DC, but was left behind in Atlanta when he went out for a cigarette. I'm still trying to figure out how he wound up being thrown at a cop in Boston. Brick 32 is a paid informant. He took online swimming classes when the pandemic hit, but almost drowned because his connection sucked. Brick 64 unwittingly befriended an alt-right troll while volunteering at a soup kitchen. I've only ever heard of them talk about addiction. Brick 128 thinks he's doing it for different reasons than his white separatist friends. But I tell him that's mental masturbation. Brick 256 wants to start a riot so widespread we have no choice but to start over just so he can say he owned the libs. He disappears before I can respond. Brick 512 tried to overthrow the government. Nobody seemed to care or notice their numbers had been doubling for generations. Brick 1024 refuses to see they lost, but that doesn't change the fact that they lost. That was that one.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Is the next Garage Poets reading coming up soon or next month? Well, I guess next month would be soon.
Yeah, that is coming up on hang on one second. I get that out for you. Yeah, that's coming up on June 16th, and we have feature as Nick Paleologos.
Very awesome. Keep us posted. Hopefully I'll be able to make one of the readings this summer. Coming up and popping off our open mic sheet before we get to the very patient features is another contributor to Oddball Magazine. Check out her photography and poetry. Let's welcome up Karen A. Sklani.
Okay, unmute. All right, great. Hi, thank you, Chad. So this poem was inspired by a piece of glass that a neighbor wrote on. The words, "I am like water." And so I decided I held it for a while and kept it. And then this poem emerged. I am like water, sliding over rocks and pebbles, burbling through dense forests, in the shadows between grassy hills, laughing as I move, always forward. I am like water, rippling from the breath of wind, jumping up to greet sailboats gliding across my surface, throwing foam at the sailors, singing my favorite tunes. I am like water, reflecting the light from summer's glow, dancing with golden sparkles and smiling on a late September afternoon. I am like water, cradling ships, sailing among the stars from rainbow nebulae, dripping from the Milky Way, pumped by hearts full of wonder. I am like water, falling from the sky, decked with glistening silver-lined clouds, as nourishing for all beings who call Earth home.
Thank you so much, Karen, and thanks to everyone who read on tonight's open mic. And without further ado, let's get to our features tonight. Those of you who have never heard an extended set from Carol Weston, you're in for a double treat, not just because we give her extra time to let Carol do her thing. She's been a part of Stone Soup's history for decades. It was Jack Powers who published her first and to date only chapbook, but that will be changing very soon as publishers are chomping at the bit to put out her work. You can go on YouTube and check any number of videos of Carol Weston's performances with or without music. You can hear her stories even in tonight's feature. But you're also getting another treat because you're getting another friend of Stone Soup poetry, particularly another friend of Jack Powers, Margaret Wesel, who I met around the same time I took over for our hosting of Stone Soup. And her friendship to Jack can't be, and her times of being with Jack when he was going through difficulties can't be understated. And her continuing efforts to preserve the stone pieces of Stone Soup's history that Jack passed on to her is also very credible. I mean, very I salute it. It's applaudable, and hopefully she's going to have some help very soon. It's time to get some of Jack's stuff into one good safe place, and hopefully we'll be able to do that soon. But for now, I'm going to turn it over to our features. So put your hands together virtually, audibly, unaudibly, however you'd like. And welcome up Carol and Margaret. Oh wait, Carol, let me unmute you. Sorry about that.
This is Carol Weston Galloway, and So I wanted to start with the Navajo Indian love song as well as I can. I want to follow this with a poem by Henry Vaughan. He lived 1621, 1695. I used to have it on my answering machine, and Garrett Lansing appreciated it enormously. My sister Emily couldn't stand it. I saw eternity the other night like a great ring of endless light, all calm as it was bright, and round beneath it time in hours, days, years, world and all its train were hurled. So my husband Don wanted to be a cloud physicist. He will be reading his remarkable poems at the New Gallery in Quincy, and we'll read together, and we'll read Mount St. Helens, a story of his climb of Mount St. Helens. He finishes his poems, and people ask for them. You too can read at the gallery, the New Gallery in Quincy. The first poem I wrote, I titled Reason and Ambitions. And now I'm making it the subtitle of my book. And it's the book, my book with anyway. So I shall sail into the fire of the sun. I was co-editor of The Lamp, the Windsor School. I'd never been given even assistant desk inspector. They never gave me any responsibility. But anyway, suddenly they decided that I would be co-editor of The Lamp and head of the World Federalist. Nancy Dodson would have been a fabulous, she wrote a wonderful article about the World Federalists. I read it to her. She was quite amazed. Of course, then it turned out to be her own. Anyway, 10 years later, my therapist said that poem was addressed to my very practical, down-to-earth mother. So I was looking in my notebooks. By all means, look in old notebooks. You never know what you're going to find. And so let's see. This is a ballad to the poet George Barker. He was born 1913 in England and anthologized by Yeats at the age of 25. And anyway, be sure to look at your old notebooks. You never know what you've written. George Barker and his new wife, Elspeth Barker, the author of the great book, O Caledonia, were looking for a house. They gave all their money for a house, which wasn't very much, to a man who made off with the money. George was so angry that he lifted up his fist, and when he put it down, he lifted up his fist in desperation, smashed it down on the newspaper. And when he lifted the newspaper under his fist, he found that they were looking for a family to live rent-free for life in Anne Boleyn's grandfather's estate. There was a ghost. There's a reference to a ghost of Anne Boleyn riding headless through the thick fog. The house is was in Ittering, Norfolk, England, and oh God, fabulous place. And so this is it. Under his, to George Barker, under his fist a house was found, under his tear a poem is found, under his nose a scar is found from a bite by a woman in fury against his violence. Over the house the fog is thick, the winter winds tear off the tiles, the ghost that rides ghost that rides the fog night road is Anne Boleyn without a head. Over the stairs in the ancient house, out to the church by bicycle, to practice being with the dead and feel with them the morning light. Oh. Now, Tip Tiernan fasted for the homeless until she was dangerously weak. She started Rosie's Place. On March 14, 1994, I went to the State House steps where Jan Rao and James Van Looy were fasting for the homeless. Their words are written out over the sink in my house in Quincy. Now, anyway. Well, now, do you know this guy? He was in Time magazine. Oh my God. Most arresting photo I ever saw in my life, and his name is Alexei Navalny. And the Russians, Putin tried to poison him on the airplane, and it didn't work. And instead of escaping, he has gone back into prison because he knows what a threat he is, Putin. And I do not know if he is tortured. I hope not. I think not. I think they wouldn't dare. Anyway, Howler Monkey and the Layers of the Earth, storytelling with Nancy Mellon. Let's see, Bill Barnum, ballet dancer and poet, recited his luminous lines as he danced. Billy was the Nijinsky of the word. Anthony Jaraputo said. So this book, A Cockatoo of Rare Design by Bill Barnum and Jaraputo, whose excellent introduction, perennial, innocent. I was a poison ivy child. Every year I had to be out of. Now, I found this line from John Keats in Oscar Williams' anthology. Robin and Willie, my friends in New York, introduced me to Oscar. And Lowell said, Oscar, one of the greatest anthologists in America. And in Oscar we went to dinner, Robin and Willie and I, with Oscar Williams on the roof house looking over toward the Statue of Liberty. His book, Immortal Poems of the English Language. Oscar Williams had Robin, Willie, and I over to dinner and gave each of us his anthology. I reached under the table. It was very rough. He brought little animals that you eat. What? Well, anyway, he bought some of those and could not bear to eat them, so he let them loose all over the house. He let me have one to take home and another for my friend Mary to have in her classroom. Jasper, the full. I tried to phone John Mulrooney to tell him about the reading. To my astonishment, he answered in Belfast, Ireland, with his students. Every year he brings them. So the very best to each of you who do give me inspiration. I'm making a list based on what I learned from John Wieners. He had 286, I think, people he gave thanks to. And I'm going to be worse. And I call it gratitude and inspiration. So I can put Apollo and other friends of mine that are a little more subtle. And so God bless each of you. And each of you should be in my list of inspiration and gratitude. And thank you tonight. And thank you, Chad, for doing the most remarkable continuation of Stone Soup. Oh, next is Margaret Nairn, Wesel, and she was sort of a nurse for Jack Powers, and a blessing to his life at the end. Okay. Your turn.
Thank you, Carol. That was beautiful. Thank you, Chad. Listeners of Stone Soup. Hope you can hear through the mask. I have on a mask made for me. Friends, I want to. I'm here with it off. It's hard to hear. I disconnect.
No.
Oh,
no.
I disconnected them, though, didn't I?
You're not disconnected. You're not disconnected.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. I have a lot of Jack's things still in storage and back of our house.
Margaret, I can't hear you anymore.
Oh, you can't hear me?
Can you put the phone to your mouth?
Yeah, it is. I think I might have disconnected.
You're not disconnected.
Oh, okay. So I would really like to see some of these things that we saved for Jack. I need to close out this. I was really glad that all of his pots and pans recently able to give to National Community Church Weston, hoping that one way of the
You're breaking up. You're breaking up, Margaret. Is there another phone you can use?
I'm trying. Anyway, they're hoping to have meals on Jack's pots and pans. Sometime I would love to have a podium and pot reading there. It was lovely. But any paintings that anybody gave to Jack, please try to get in touch with me. I may have them and would. Can you not hear me?
I cannot hear you.
Uh-oh.
I'm going to try and connect to your cell phone.
Okay.
So just give me 1 second. One minute delay, people.
Should I put it down?
Don't put it down. Okay. So Margaret, Margaret Wesel, can you talk again? Oh, one second. Here we go. Try one more time. Actually, I need to do it. There we go.
Can you hear? Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Can you? Yes. Oh, good. So I hang up the other phone. Oh, I'll hang up the other phone. Okay. Okay. Thank you. So I was just mentioning lovely things about Jack, and I'm grateful for everything that he brought into my life, not least being able to relate to people. So I'm glad for that. I wanted to read something by Longfellow from Evangeline. There's a story embedded in Evangeline, beginning with the line, "Man is unjust, but God is just, and finally justice triumphs." This lovely story. So this is like bedtime. It's getting late, so here we go. Once in an ancient city, whose name I no longer remember, raised aloft on a column, a bronzen statue of justice stood in the public square, upholding the scales in its left hand, and in its right a sword as an emblem that justice presided over the laws of the land and the hearts of homes and of people. Even the birds had built their nests in the scales of the balance, having no fear of the sword that flashed in the sunshine above them. But in the course of time, the laws of the land were corrupted. Might took the place of right, and the weak were oppressed, and the mighty ruled with an iron rod. Then it chanced in a nobleman's palace that a necklace of pearls was lost, and ere long a suspicion fell on an orphan girl who lived as maid in the household. She, after form of trial, condemned to die on the scaffold, patiently met her doom at the foot of the statue of justice. As to her Father in heaven, her innocent spirit ascended. Lo, o'er the city a tempest arose, and the bolts of the thunder smote the statue of bronze, and hurled in wrath from its left hand down on the pavement below the clattering scales of the balance. And in the hollow thereof was found the nest of a magpie, into whose clay-built walls the necklace of pearls was inwoven. I found this very startling.
Thank you. Would you do the title again?
That's from Evangeline.
Evangeline.
It's embedded in there. Longfellow's Evangeline. So I added a thought from today's reading from Psalm 119, verse 148. My eyes stay open through the watches of the night, that I may meditate on your promises. Hear my voice in accordance with your love. Preserve my life, O Lord, according to your laws. I wanted to read something to you that I wrote after a Forgiven and Set Free recovery group, which is all about the trials and tribulations of losing one's child. But I wanted to write what I wrote about that. I remember it was a sunny day. I felt enormous dread. I felt ridiculous going into a hospital for a procedure that would kill and not heal. I wanted to pray for safety or whatever, but absolutely felt there was no praying for a good outcome for doing something that felt wrong to me. I felt foolish and ridiculous going in and desolate, let down, and deflated by the outcome. I had wanted to feel something good, but was inclined to want simply to mourn and to feel angry. Self-hating and defeated, I then felt very bad for going forward with a procedure that I'd known would make matters worse. Then realizing that I had, in fact, been right about that all along. So I have to say, I went through with that because psychiatrists persuaded me I was insane and ought to act accordingly, which was a bit sad. I wanted to read something that I wrote last year. It's called For Chloe. Today, our friend's small dog went the way all dogs do, taking away in their light frames our love into the trail of earth. Their tail, belonging to all who knew them, wagging still behind them, no longer quite with us. But there is no chill, only a warm remembrance. And something here titled A Righteous Jealousy. I wrote rather recently. It's a bit scary. A righteous jealousy, a holy rage. Do not fear. It is good. Cling to it. It is for you. Though it drive you off, be there for it and sing. It is before you. It is all there is for you, this rage. I was scared by that. Then I wrote something for my husband after he had some teeth removed. 2 teeth are out, are gone. Not any more be saved. But now, with our mutual agreement and their going, there is now the acknowledgement of us, the being for whose being there's now a whole, and they are gone. We no longer one with them, the teeth, for the thing is done, may now be whole, and now we may be one together. Bit bizarre. It was quite an ordeal, and new teeth have come in their place, strange as that might seem. They're a bit pricey, but they seem to be in his mouth. I have a gap. I didn't want to get new teeth. Anyway, so the one last thing I wanted to read is about a creature we thought about adopting last year, but then decided that the creature would be better off nurtured in the wild. So here is the story of the creature. In dark shadows, on small legs, scrabbling swiftly through the muddy shallows, an inky night, our last glimpse of Terp, or Theodore for short, as this fresh pond silver dollar child makes good. He spent one day with us. Once Larry spied him trampled dry within the pathway dirt, then pried him loose. Once bathed inside our dish bowl, Bert rallied to endure, and with craning neck and whip-like tail blowing bubbles in our sunny sink, he made us laugh. His brief stay marked by one escape attempt, as when with indomitable form he took a fall, and then, marled by dust, vanished. Oops, sorry, I got that wrong. And then vanished. Marled by dust from underneath our fridge, he soon returned. There is no edge now as, once more wandering in the world returned to wild, we trust for his endurance, our cherished turtle child. I want to thank you. And if it was hard to hear me earlier, contact Tad for any contact information, but I do have quite a few things of Jack stored, and they've been in storage for, 13 years. So it would be good to find a home for paintings that were in his collection, artwork that Jack actually executed as Jack Debris, and
Thank you. Thank you very much, Margaret, and thank you very much to Carol Weston for this double feature. And I'll say this, Margaret, I do have contacts with former librarians who might be able to help you, and we're going to see what we can do about all of this, because I had a whole bunch of stuff from the UMass Boston location that's just been in my room now for a little bit over a year. So it's time for me to find a home for this too. So hopefully this summer we'll be able to figure that out. So, but I wish you luck, and I thank you so much for keeping Jack's memories literally alive and well. Lord knows what would happen, but thanks to you both for keeping Jack's memory alive in the metaphorical and actual physical sense. Thank you guys. Thanks to everyone very much for coming out to tonight's feature. I'm hopefully going to have some announcements for the next feature very soon. It's funny, without a birthday to plan for and without having to cough every 10th word, I actually have a lot more time on my plate. So who would have guessed? But thank you guys for being here for the celebration of Stone Soup's 52nd anniversary. I knew I'd get around to it eventually. Get a full-blown feature, more features, and more friends are coming back. If you guys want to put your videos on for one moment and do the obligatory goodbye wave, sideway cam also counts, Christiana. but thank you guys very much for coming out tonight and being here for this. And more stuff's going to happen, more stuff's being announced, and thank you guys for your time. This is my body telling me to stop talking. And my own body's been shutting me up. So take care of yourselves. Have yourselves an excellent night. Thank you again to Carol and Margaret, and we'll see you again very soon. Thank you.
I had a coughing fit before.
Take care and have a good night.
I took hot tea.
Thanks, Chad.
Good night, everybody. Great reading,
Trisha.
everybody.
Good night.
Feel better, everybody. Don't get sick.
Too late.